Okay, tips and techniques. I mentioned this earlier, actually. It's so much easier to raise money for a pre-revenue company, you know, so don't casually start taking revenue. Think about that, right? Because the minute you get it, then you're being measured, and being measured is, you know, a whole nother challenge. Debt offerings can be interesting, right? You know, if you're really confused on valuation, or if you feel like currently the valuation is just not going to cut it the way you want, you don't want that dilution. If your company is solid enough that you can carry a debt offering and the interest burden that goes with it, consider that. And if you make a large enough reserve from the invested principal to pay the dividend for a long enough period and thoroughly disclose that you're doing that so that it's all completely above board, that's another way to go. There are a large number of people out there looking for decent returns on their money. I don't see this as an overall panacea, but if the company is strong enough, then sometimes that works. And it obviously involves no dilution at all unless you're offering equity with a dividend payment. An important point is that if your company isn't the right nature to market online or successfully, lowering the valuation will not fix the problem, right? It's not valuation sensitive. If you can't get people in and engaging who aren't even initially looking at the damn valuation, changing the valuation isn't going to do anything for you at all. So don't depend on that as a solution, right? Different story if you're dealing with investors one-on-one, because you actually have their attention and you can explain it, but it isn't going to work in an online raise. We talked about how it works with VCs and I gave you suggestions as to how to use that. I think my suggestion on Reg CF is mostly to be careful with it because it's not liquid. You're dealing with enthusiasts, so you've got some shades of Reg A plus there and some shades of you know, an illiquid offering, right? So don't shoot for as high a valuation in it as you can carry in a Reg A plus, and don't go for excessive valuations anyway. There are some, but not many, there are some instances of companies that have done successive Reg A pluses where, not many, but there are, you know, a couple where they've got to be really ridiculously high valuations now. And I look at them and I consider them a skeleton in the closet for the industry, for Reg A plus, because unless they're insanely lucky and turn into a Tesla sort of company, that's going to come back to haunt them, you know? So I guess that's an obvious thing to watch out for in Reg A plus, especially because you can convince investors to invest at higher valuations than they really should. So let's not do that because that's going to cause problems down the road. Keeping it simple and being flexible. You know, I do meet entrepreneurs that are rigid about dilution, and, you know, too much rigidity usually isn't going to work in your favor. Flexibility is the prudent way to go. Resources to use, obviously underwriters, they can tell you what the valuation should be. They're allowed to. Valuation professionals, they're supposed to and they're allowed to, right? Go there. We have 4 or 5 valuation professionals that we're in touch with that we can refer you to. I think one in our resources on the Manhattan Streets Capital page, you can click on resources and there's a company there with a low cost valuation system that's based in software.